Hi everyone, I'm Karine and I work in the marketing team here at Silver Cloud. You'll shortly be hearing from our head of deliveries, Anna, and she is the expert when it comes to advisory and selection. So before we kick off this webinar on HR selection, we're just a couple of housekeeping things. We're going to be doing some polls throughout the webinar. So when they pop up, please do just take part so that we can get a census of what's going on. And then throughout the webinar, if you have any questions, there's a question pane on the right-hand side. So just pop your questions in there and we will look at those at the end of the webinar. So Anna, I think we can get started. So I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Karine. So my name's Anna Johnson. As Karine has just said, I'm head of delivery here at Silver Cloud. For my sins and my pleasure, I have been at Silver Cloud now just over 3 years and slowly built up the advisory and selection practice, and have had the pleasure of working with many clients and the whole team on doing system selections. So first of all, just a huge thank you for joining the webinar today. As Karine has said, if you guys have got any questions that I can answer towards the end, there's a whole section where we can open up to the audience for questions. Hopefully everybody can see my screen. I'm going to rely on Karine because I think she's the only one that's got access at the moment to check. There's still a few people drifting into the call. Hi, Tom. We're just doing some brief introductions and we're going to go straight to the agenda. But as I said, if anybody's got any questions throughout, please feel free either to save them, write them on the Q&A, and then we can get through to them as we go through. So for today, it's all about HR system selections. So hopefully you're all in the right call today to try and find out some insights about how to best select your new software. And I'm just going to go through the agenda that we've got on here. So why you want to change, creating the perfect partnership with a potential future vendor, practicalities of the selection process. And we have been doing this, as I said, for over 3 years now and have learned quite a lot of different things from our clients and the team working with different providers over the years. So we're going to try and share some of those with you. 4 steps of getting selection right, and then we're just going to go into a summary. So the first question, just to open up to the audience, is in terms of the way in which you have your software set up today internally. Karine's going to launch a poll for you guys to answer. We're just trying to understand what type of software, how do you run your HR system setup today? So I'll let Karine launch the poll just to give us a bit of an insight, and then we can go from there.
Great, thank you. So the poll is open, so if you can pop your answers in there, and then we'll have a look at the results in a few seconds' time.
Fabulous.
Great.
Amazing.
We got one more person. Quickly let them in before we get rid of the poll. There we go.
Hi to the new joiners as well. We're just doing a very quick poll on the screen that Karine's driving. We're just getting some answers about the type of system that we've got. So what's interesting on what we're seeing here so far is that a lot of you today have got one single human capital management suite, and only 2 of the people on the call today have got a best of breed, so where they've got multiple solutions. And then we've got one person that's not quite sure at the moment what they've got. So we're just going to go and talk to you guys a little bit about the types of solutions that are out there. So hopefully we'll be able to get my screen to work. But before we do that, let's just kind of share some of the research that we have found over the years and having worked with our clients. So at the moment, we've got 40% that do not have a cloud-based solution. 54% of the research that we carried out had poor remote onboarding processes. 60% of the people that were asked had no or little integration between HR and payroll, and that's quite a key one that we hear quite a lot about. 52% of the platforms were not trusted as a single truth of people data. We hear that quite a lot. And as soon as somebody starts distrusting the data, the HR teams work becomes a lot more difficult. 40% utilising the current HRIS system to its full capacity. So people go and buy a solution and then they're paying for things that they're not actually using. Again, wasting of money. And 40% they don't have dedicated resources managing the HR solution. Again, we see those two last points linked together, where you're not using the system to its full capacity and also not having the resource to help drive those system improvements are quite tied together. 64% say that the HRIS systems wasn't fit for the strategic engagement, so they're using other methods to engage their people. 28% do not have the HR apps and IS system updated regularly, which means they either got the systems on premise or they're simply just not applying some of the fixes and upgrades that the providers are doing. And 63% they say that the employee self-service and manager self-service functionality is partly or non-existent. So again, we've got what this tells us is that a lot of people, a lot of HR teams out there are still doing a lot for their people. And actually, you know, as technology has moved on over the last few years, you know, finding that right technology where people are able to self-serve more in line with what they do on the day-to-day lives will actually, you know, not only become more self-autonomous for the organisation, but it'll also help employees do what they want to do at a time that suits them. Let's just look at the next one. So creating the perfect technology partnership and what we've got here. So we asked you the question around the type of suite that you're using internally at the moment. We just kind of wanted to talk through the different types of technology that are out there and how different organisations choose to implement technology nowadays. So some of you have said that you've got a HCM-centred architecture, so everything feeds off that HR system. It's a centre of truth and all of the systems feed off that HR platform. The next one that we've got on here is the workforce-centred human capital management architecture, which is mainly used for organisations that have got high turnover, they're in logistics, retail, hospitality, all those areas where they're having to do workforce management, and a lot of the effort needs to go in that software. We have some organisations, although there's less that we have seen through certainly on the selection, where they have more focus on talent, and they'll have a basic HR platform, but more of their software will be based around the talent technology. And then a lot of the people that tend to come to us, we see them coming with best of breed. So over time, the architecture would have got more complicated. So they've said that they wanted a new HR system, they might have wanted a new recruitment application, they might have wanted something to track time. So it's got more confusing over time. They're managing multiple contracts, and you know, it's not for everybody, but some organisations choose the best of breed solution to get the best software that there is for the different elements that are out there in the space. So we're going to go into, like, are you actually ready to go through to selection and implement a new system? So we like to, in Silver Cloud, break it down into three separate phases. So phase one, you know, putting some context around why is the program important and why is the program important right now. The vision, why do you want to do it? How does the program fit your people strategy? The research, how will the program help deliver and enhance service to your customers? And your business case, which is the most important bit. Before you get any money to actually buy any new software, you need to have that business case nice and solid to get strategic buy-in before you go ahead. So we're just going to explore this area. The second phase is functional fit and selection, and we'll go into that shortly. And the third phase is just that leadership and program management, making sure that that's nice and successful. So within phase one, we like to break it down is just setting the foundations of a great partnership. So first thing, we need to make sure that we define a clear and defined objectives. Second section is making the case for change, managing your stakeholder expectations, and collaborating. And I'll go into these a little bit more. And I've had the team I spoke to later last week that I've been doing more selections recently, and they've told me some of the additional objectives that our clients are trying to achieve. So people are trying to align the people strategy to the digital strategy through technology. They like to drive decisions based on better data. The organisation will typically tend to contract with a vendor for 3 years at least. So wherever you decide to go, it's a slightly longer term investment. Defining your organisation people strategy, seamless automated processes. We've got on here modern interface that supports and attracts the retention of talent and less administrative processes. So a lot of the time when organisations want to select a new system, they've either got antiquated processes internally and the technology is hopefully going to make their life better longer term. How we approach this, we normally look at taxonomy. So when we start doing some of our research, we look at all the different processes that sit within HR, and it's very detailed on here, and Kareem will share this with you guys after the call. But we like to break down the different elements around the recruitment, human capital management, time and attendance, and we break all those areas into the different sub-processes. By going through these elements, it helps us understand the way in which clients are operated today and the things that they're finding most painful about the processes that they're doing within the HR applications. Like I said, we look at what it is today, what is not working, and how we need to change that for the future. Making the case for change. So it's about understanding the pain points. So what are the business implications? Who's affected and how? So we mustn't underestimate the impact of the change. Sometimes people think it's a small thing, but if the change management process isn't targeted from the beginning, and it starts from the point of selection, because you're starting to engage your stakeholders to get the buy-in to buy new software, and the severity and priority. The goals, so are you trying to cut costs? Are you trying to boost your productivity? So some people may feel threatened by the idea of a new technology being put in place, but it's about how you manage those individuals to help you manage the process, give you as much information to help you land the best possible solution. Informed decisions, so don't just take data. How long is it taking you to process a starter, process a leaver, log your holiday? Calculate the amount of time that you're spending today and try and find ways to improve that going forwards. Automation and efficiency. Measuring, so are you measuring your attrition, your absences, inefficiencies and compliance? And research, so research the capability, the cost range that you're happy to invest in, the timescales and how much effort you're happy to put within this. We have got a digital maturity model, and again, this digital maturity model, Corinne will share with all of you post the call, and it kind of talks around where you are as an organisation today. Are you an immature organisation? Are you in a conceptual stage? Have you defined what you're trying to achieve from your digital maturity model? Are you already integrated, or are you now predictive? And the predictive is kind of like the ultimate goal of the way in which you could use a software technology to maximize all your processes. But as an organisation, you will know where you sit today, and you can use this kind of checklist to see kind of where you are today to where you'd like to be in the future and help you along the way. Expectation management. So just to set it from the beginning, that there is no perfect system out there. It's about finding a solution that's fit for you as an organisation, that meets your requirements, and that you're going to have to compromise the least amount. But don't go into a selection process thinking that you're going to be able to find the ultimate solution and no compromises are going to be made. Be clear on your requirements, areas of compromise, and the key objectives in finding the best partnership. So some of the clients that come to us sometimes decide to change software because they're not happy with their existing partners that they've got in place, with the existing vendors, and they don't want to repeat that. So it's very important throughout the selection process to find a good fit. And that kind of takes me on to the next one, which is the cultural fit is important as the functional fit. So we mustn't underestimate it. As an organisation, you will know your values, your behaviours, the way in which you want to work with another vendor, so that being a software vendor or being another partner that you work with in your organisation. But making sure that that cultural fit is nice and tight will make a nice big difference. And asking questions that will help you build up a picture of the relationship that you're about to enter. It's a long-term relationship, so don't think you can walk into this and walk away. Once you sign, most vendors, like I said earlier, between 3 to 5 years, they'll like to contract with you. So it's a long-term investment that you will realise the benefit over time. And and zoning on individual priorities. So there might be different stakeholders that have got different priorities throughout the process, and trying to understand those nuggets that help and that will get the buy-in from those individuals will help you along the selection process. The next one is collaboration. So recognizing the partnerships must be maintained and built on. So SaaS solutions are not static and commonly offer, like I said, four updates a year, or if not more. Ensure you're continually benchmarking onto your people's strategy so that you don't waste money on things that you've purchased and not utilizing. Be clear on what updates you want to invest further on, time and resource, so that that gets implemented. Engage regularly with your vendors, so they will keep you informed of upcoming enhancements. They can support you and advocate you when it comes to roadmap features. So there might be something that your software is not currently doing, but it might be doing it for you if you put it as a suggestion going forwards. And over time, if you maintain those relationships with the vendors, you know, they're able to influence the roadmap and the things that those developers work on. They can help you articulate the business to your solution and how it's making a difference as well. So if you think a vendor's got access to lots of different clients, they've got access to lots of data, and it will help you quantify the benefit realization piece. Some vendors actually do benefit realization as part of selection for free, but you just got to ask the question. Not all of them do it. So my next question for everybody, I'm conscious of time, I'm talking away. What is driving your need for changing your HR system today? And Corinne's going to put that poll up on there for us.
Great. So we've got some answers coming through. It's pretty 50-50 with vendor relationship breakdown and outgrowing their current system. Oh, it's kind of tweaked now. So here we go. Outgrowing the current system is the most popular one
at the moment, which is very, very common. You know, outgrowing of software technology is easily done, and you know, as organizations grow through acquisitions, through partnerships, more headcount sometimes means that the software that's originally chosen may not necessarily be fit for purpose. Some companies get more global footprint as part of the growth, and the current system may not be fit to have global presence. So there might be challenges, and that might be one of the reasons why. And then we've got some people and partnership breakdown again, and then lack of data and insights as well. So thank you for sharing those with us. Okay, let's move on to the next section, which is the practicalities of the selection process itself, which is the functional fit. So which system will best fit your needs, and the selection. So who's accountable for the program, and how will your decision making be managed? So again, we like to kind of break this down. So consult widely. So use this as the first point where you start talking to your teams, HR, finance, IT. You know, involve some managers, some promoters, some demoters in the selection process. Define your scope. Consider the art of the possible, and run a structured process. So in consulting widely, you've got to identify who your key stakeholders are. You've got to involve them early. There are time and time again where we get asked to come in, and the system's already been selected, and we're helping an organisation implement and manage that relationship with the vendor as well. And sometimes we notice that some of the earlier engagement hasn't yet happened, so it becomes more of an uphill. Whereas if you engage them early on in the process, it tends to become a lot smoother. Understanding the pain points of the current landscape, regardless of how small or how big the pain point is for a particular individual, you know, acknowledging it, tracking it, and communicating it as a need of the future to be improved is really important, because people start feeling heard. Get a consensus agreement, so from the business, keep them up to date and engage throughout the whole process. And we've got a webinar on stakeholder buy-in that is available for you guys as well. So how would this benefit you? So we need to find what people are interested. Stakeholder buy-in, investing time in the right places, improve communication, valuable engagement, managed expectations, effective decision making, building trust and accountability, fewer surprises, and better understanding of needs and concerns. Defining your requirements as such, so you've got to gather all your requirements for the new system, prioritise those requirements, and I've got a lovely team of ladies that work on selections on our practice now. So Emma and Indra do an absolutely amazing job at this for me. Recently, they've been working on some of these. So we have got lots of requirements, but as a business, you will build a list of requirements that are needed for your new software. We like to prioritize them. So what's most important to you? It helps you once you have done the analysis to try and understand the things that you're happy to compromise on, but identifying that early on is really important. Test and refine the prioritization and requirements with stakeholders. So we like to gather the requirements and almost feed that back to the business before we go out to do the RFP. Translate and agreed requirements into scenarios for vendor demos. So the team also like to work with the clients to understand what are the things that are not working today that we could get the vendor to scenario throughout the demonstrations. Moscow rating, that's what we like to use. Is it a must-have requirement? Is it a should-have requirement? It could have, but it's okay if it doesn't have it, or it won't have, as in like it's not needed and I wouldn't like it in the future. Art of the possible. So technology has moved on drastically in the last, certainly in the last 4 or 5 years, it's moved on quite a lot. And some of the stronger vendors from that classified as tier ones are being caught up by the middle vendors in the middle phase where technology's moved on. There's a lot of talk at the moment about artificial intelligence and machine learning. So that's fast approaching and coming. Real-time pay, so people being able to access pay as and when they want. Being able to predict analytics, so using the data that's held within your systems for better decision making, and chatbots. So using some of that software technology to help you again reduce some of that administrative burden, which overall will ultimately optimize the experience that the end user has. So you've got to think about kind of where you are as an organization and where you'd like to get to. So some of these things sound really cool and, exciting to try and get after, but your organization might be quite antiquated in some of the processes that are being followed and may not necessarily be ready. So if you kind of aim for a really big jump from where you are today, that might not be adopted as well as something that might be more in the middle for your needs. So it's about finding the right software for the right organization with the right size. And the running in the structured process, as you'll probably know, we do selections for a lot of our clients, but we run a very thorough selection process. Don't know if you can see that. Oops. Excuse me one. I'd like to establish the project team and the roles of the project to start off with. Clarify the business case that the business is trying to achieve. We research the market, so try and understand based on those high level needs, who is it out there that could potentially meet those. Identify the scope, and we establish a project plan. So some of you might think about how long is it likely to take me to choose the right selection. Gather the requirements, we contact the vendors, and then you'll have to attend. After contacting the vendors, the RFP normally would come back with the information and answers to your requirements, and we like to analyse that information. So we'd normally go through all the requirements and rate each vendor according to what they have answered within the RFP. Once we know that information, we then take that information back to the client, and the client normally would decide who they'd like to invite to demos. So we're starting to narrow down the number of vendors that you're dealing with. We then complete the vendor evaluation by using the information that we've had from the requirements together with the information that we've had from the demonstration. So we like to ask the people that have attended those demonstrations what they thought of the solution. So more of the look and feel and whether they felt it would be a good match as a vendor. We'll review the costs, look to future-proof the selection technology and try and avoid any common pitfalls. So this structured process that we like to run, it will take a period of time to complete. But if you don't do this, you'll find that you'll end up taking longer at the other side, or you might find that you're choosing the wrong particular vendor. So next question that we've got on here, looking at the future and what we've kind of shared so far with you today, what type of human capital management architecture you think is right for you now? And Karine will put the poll back up on the side. So we're looking for, is it centered? Is it workforce management? Is it talent centered? Is it best of breed? So at the moment we've got one person saying centered, two centered, workforce management. So we must have some retailers on the call as well, or hospitality sector. Yeah, so the percentages are going up at the moment. So it looks like HCM centered is what we're trying to achieve. And we've got one that's still unsure at the moment. Okay, thank you for sharing those with us. Okay, so supporting you through the transformation journey. So these are some of the things that we kind of like to do. So step in one, like you guys might decide that you want to do a review of the system that you've got in place today and do a health check. Is there any gaps in the system? Step two would be to select the new system. Once you've selected, you then would have to think about delivering that solution. So the selection process is only a small part of the overall implementation window. Deliver that implementation, the implementations from once the contracts are signed to normally going live, depending on the scope you're looking, anything between 6 months to a year and a half, depending on whether it's UK based or global scope. And some of those implementations carry on onto multiple phases once they've implemented. HR and pay. Go live, so taking care, making sure that you complete your training, that you upskill your workforce. And then 5 is the management of that ongoing relationship with the vendors. So we've come to the end of my talking, and I wanted to allow half an hour to kind of open up for questions. The last time I did this presentation, there was quite a lot of questions from the audience, just to try and understand some of those things.
Great. Thank you so much, Anna. We have got a few questions in. Anybody else who would like to ask questions, please just put it on the pane on the right-hand side and we can address all of those. So the first one is, how long does it typically take to get a new system in place?
So new systems, from the point, if it depends if you're running the process internally yourself or if you're getting a consultancy to kind of help you. I've done it internally as an internal resource for a company, and I've also done it through Silver Cloud, like we do it as a service. As a service, we normally say anything between 13 to 16 weeks. And that's to manage the whole process, to allow the vendors to apply to the RFP and give them. We normally give vendors around 3 weeks to respond to RFPs, because they normally have to speak to some of those technical experts before they come back with some of those answers. And if you run that internally, again, depending on how much involvement and how much stakeholder management you do before going out, again, I'd probably say, at least 2-3 months at a minimum, depending on how structured you'd like to run that process.
So once you've done your selection, how long will it take to then implement the system afterwards?
So as I mentioned earlier, again, depending on size of scope, so most companies will like to implement core HR first, followed not too long after by payroll. And once those 2 modules are in, they like to implement some of the additional information. So some of the additional modules like talent, performance, recruitment. So they follow some of those after HR and pay. So get the core HR data in first.
Great. And then we have one from Beth, and she asks, how can I determine if a system will be scalable for us in the long run?
So the scalability of the process of the actual system is interesting, because you need to not just think about what you're going to need today as an organization, but what else is happening in your organization in the future. So what we sometimes like to do is, when we do the RFPs, we ask what functionality is available as standard for the client, and then whether they choose to use it at that point in time or not, have that information available. So let's say in 6 months or a year down the line, once they've started implementing they've got a global requirement for payroll, we will know whether that is suitable for the client or not, because they would have answered that as part of the RFP. So it's being really precise in the way in which you answer your request proposal questions, so like your requirements, documenting those very, very clearly, trying to speak to some of the senior people within your organisation to ensure that you've got some of that visibility of the future of your organisation to help you feed into that process.
Great. Well, thank you so much. If we have any further questions, I believe that is all for today. So I'd just like to thank you, everybody who actually attended today. As Anna mentioned, I will be sending you the recording of the webinar. There'll also be a PDF of the taxonomy report, as well as our digital maturity model. So look out for that. And we are also hosting we are also hosting a webinar in November, and this is all going to be on change management. So that's one not to be missed. But we will be able to give you 28 minutes of your time back. So have a lovely rest of the day. And again, thank you so much for attending. And thank you, Anna, for sharing all of this with us today.
No worries. Thanks, everybody. Take care.